Los Angeles in the mid-1980s was a city of sunshine, dreams, and opportunity. But during one terrifying summer, the city found itself under the shadow of a man who stalked its neighborhoods after dark. He was nameless to the public at first, a phantom who crept into homes, leaving behind a trail of blood, fear, and confusion. The media would eventually call him the Night Stalker, but his real name was Richard Ramirez, a man whose crimes shocked California and the world. Richard Ramirez was born on February 29, 1960, in El Paso, Texas. His childhood was marked by poverty, abuse, and trauma. His father was strict and violent, his household troubled. At a young age, Richard began spending time with his cousin, Miguel, a Vietnam War veteran who exposed him to horrifying stories of torture and murder, even showing him graphic photographs of women he claimed to have assaulted. Miguel's influence was devastating. At just 13 years old, Ramirez witnessed his cousin shoot his wife in the face during an argument. This brutal moment scarred him deeply and planted the seeds of violence and detachment that would grow in the years ahead. As a teenager, Richard drifted further into darkness. He began using drugs, particularly LSD and cocaine, and he developed an obsession with Satanism. He was fascinated by symbols of evil and began associating violence with power. By his late teens, Ramirez had moved to California, where he fell into a life of theft, burglary, and addiction. But his desires escalated quickly. Breaking into homes was no longer just about stealing, it became about control, domination, and inflicting terror. In 1984, Ramirez committed his first known murder, killing a 79-year-old woman named Jenny Vin Cao in her Los Angeles apartment. She had been brutally stabbed and sexually assaulted, her throat slashed so deeply she was nearly decapitated. The brutality of this crime would set the tone for the horror to come. Over the next year, Ramirez carried out a series of crimes that left Los Angeles in panic. He did not follow the patterns of most serial killers. His victims varied in age, gender, and ethnicity. He attacked men and women, the elderly and the young, rich neighborhoods and poor ones. This unpredictability made him far more terrifying, because anyone could be his next victim. Ramirez's methods were equally horrifying. He often broke into homes in the middle of the night, killing men, assaulting women, sometimes sparing lives, other times showing no mercy. He used guns, knives, and blunt objects. In many cases, he forced his victims to pledge loyalty to Satan. He carved pentagrams into bodies and into the walls of homes. His crimes were not only murders but psychological warfare against an entire city. As the body count grew, the media frenzy exploded. Newspapers dubbed him the Night Stalker, and his image became that of a faceless monster haunting Southern California. People were afraid to sleep with their windows open. Locks and alarm systems were being installed across the city. Families huddled together at night, praying they wouldn't be next. But Ramirez was not as invisible as he thought. Survivors began describing his features: tall, thin, with rotting teeth and an unsettling gaze. Fingerprints and footprints were found at crime scenes. A distinctive Avia shoe print became one of the key pieces of evidence linking the crimes together. Investigators from different jurisdictions began to connect the dots, realizing they were dealing with one man. In August 1985, Ramirez's reign of terror came to a dramatic end. His face had been captured and released to the public. When he entered a neighborhood in East Los Angeles, he was recognized by residents. As he tried to flee, an angry mob chased him down, beating him until police arrived to take him into custody. For once, the city that had been terrorized by him became the force that brought him down. Ramirez's trial began in 1988 and was one of the most sensational in U.S. history. The courtroom was packed with reporters, curious spectators, and even women who bizarrely idolized him, sending him love letters and treating him like a dark celebrity. His appearance only fueled the spectacle: long black hair, piercing eyes, and a sinister grin. On the first day of his trial, he raised his hand to the cameras, revealing a pentagram drawn on his palm, and shouted, "Hail Satan." The trial revealed the true horror of his crimes. Witnesses and survivors described terrifying encounters. Evidence tied him to multiple murders, assaults, and burglaries. The brutality and randomness of his actions painted a portrait of a man driven by sadism and a need to spread fear. In September 1989, Richard Ramirez was convicted of 13 murders, 5 attempted murders, 11 sexual assaults, and 14 burglaries. He was sentenced to death and sent to San Quentin State Prison to await execution. For decades, Ramirez remained on death row. He gave interviews where he showed no remorse, often smiling coldly and embracing his identity as the Night Stalker. He claimed allegiance to Satan and dismissed his crimes as a part of human nature. To his victims' families, he was a reminder of lives stolen, futures destroyed, and innocence shattered. In 2013, before his execution could be carried out, Richard Ramirez died of complications related to cancer at the age of 53. Even in death, he remained infamous, his crimes studied and remembered as some of the most terrifying in modern American history. The story of Richard Ramirez is not just about one man's violence, it is about the fear that spread across an entire city, the resilience of survivors, and the determination of law enforcement who refused to let him keep killing. His case stands as one of the darkest chapters in California's history, a chilling reminder of how evil can walk unnoticed in crowded streets, waiting for nightfall. And so, as we look back on those long nights of fear in Los Angeles, when doors were locked and families whispered prayers before bed, one chilling question remains: if you had lived in Los Angeles during the summer of 1985, would you have been able to sleep knowing the Night Stalker might choose your home next?